One person was killed after a bomb exploded in Tel Aviv. This as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in the city.
Well, in a renewed bid to seal a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, that is what Blinken is expecting here from this visit. Now, a senior Israeli police officer said that they were probing an explosion in Tel Aviv as a possible terror attack. An unidentified man died in the blast after a bomb that he was carrying in his bag went off.
The attack came as Israel continued to pound the Gaza Strip. Gaza health authorities claim the Israeli strikes across Gaza have led to 24 deaths over the weekend. This includes a woman and her 6 children. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden said that a Gaza ceasefire is still possible despite Israel and Hamas accusing each other of sabotaging the peace talks. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris also called for a Gaza ceasefire deal during a campaign trip to Pennsylvania.
Do you think Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is ready to agree to a ceasefire deal?
I will not speak for him, but I will tell you that these conversations are ongoing and we are not giving up. And we are going to continue to work very hard on this. We got to get a ceasefire and we got to get those hostages out.
These statements came as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv. And this is his 9th trip to West Asia since the Gaza war began last year. He is set to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and several other top Israeli leaders as well. The U.S. Secretary of State will travel to Cairo on Tuesday, where ceasefire talks will resume.
Blinken's visit comes days after U.S. and fellow mediators, Egypt and Qatar, said that they are closing in on a deal after 2 days of talks in Doha. But recent statements from Israel and Hamas do not match the optimistic tone of the mediators.
Netanyahu has accused Hamas of sabotaging the truce talks. The Israeli Prime Minister made this remark during a cabinet meeting in Jerusalem. Listen to this.
Once again, I would like to emphasize, up until now, Hamas has been completely obstinate. It did not even send a representative to the talks in Doha. Therefore, the pressure needs to be directed at Hamas and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, not the government of Israel.
Hamas, on the other hand, has accused Netanyahu of obstructing an agreement for a truce and hostage exchange in Gaza.
Hamas has called the new proposal for a ceasefire deal too close to Netanyahu's recent positions, raising doubts over the success of peace talks in Cairo. All right, to discuss this further, we're being joined from New York by Adrian Kalmal, who's a fellow at the Arabian Peninsula Institute. Mr. Kalmal, thank you so much for joining in. And of course, I wanted to understand from you at this point, with Israel and Hamas blaming each other and nothing concrete being achieved in the recent talks in Doha, do you feel Blinken's visit to Tel Aviv at this point is more than optics?
Great question. Thank you for having me back. And no, I don't believe it's more than anything but optics at this point. It really seems like the definition of insanity when you go 9 times and keep on doing this and you get the same result. I don't know what they're hoping to achieve. I know what he's there to do. He's going to probably put more pressure on the Netanyahu government in Israel. Just as Netanyahu was saying, he really should be pressuring the Hamas leadership because they've rejected one deal after another. So, yeah, it's optics. It's optics. And then you have to look at the negotiators. It's Qatar, who is Hamas's, their largest sponsor. And then Egypt also with the Philadelphia crossing, which is so important. We won't get into that, but Israel needs to be able to control those tunnels and make sure that Hamas cannot resupply into those areas.
Right, Mr. Calmel, also let's just talk about what's happening on ground as well. Israel is continuing to bomb Gaza. Hamas has refused to be part of the recent talks. Ismail Haniyeh's assassination in Tehran and an impending Iranian attack. Now, this is the backdrop that we're working against. Do you feel a ceasefire deal is even possible at this juncture?
Great question, and no, I don't believe it's possible. When I look at it, when I look at the map, I see a lot of this being directed out of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They are the ones pulling the strings. They're the ones that will say, okay, we're going to back down, and Israel has hit us too hard, and we need to scale it back and stop climbing this escalation ladder. Or they just open another front, the northern front, and with Hezbollah, which has been active since the beginning of the war, since October 8th. So, it's just I just don't see a deal feasible. And at the end of the day, I don't think Hamas has much agency in what they do or what they say.
All right. Well, Mr. Calmel, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Thank you so much for your insights on this.
Thank you.